Chairman Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On March 1st, multiple commercial aircraft landing at DCA reported receiving a traffic alert collision avoidance system, a TCAS resolution advisories, as they were preparing to land, advising pilots of an impending threat from above and in some cases directing the crews to take evasive action by descending. I think we were all alarmed that just a few weeks after the tragedy, commercial pilots were being told they were at imminent risk of a deadly mid-air collision. It's now come to my attention that these warnings were caused by the Secret Service and the U.S. Navy improperly testing counter-drone technology at DCA. Apparently, the Navy was using the same spectrum band as TCAS, causing the interference and faulty resolution advisories, even though the FAA had previously warned the Navy and the Secret Service against using that specific spectrum band due to interference risks. Acting Administrator Rocheleau, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Let me just say this deeply disturbing that just a month after 67 people died while on approach to DCA, that the Secret Service and Pentagon would inadvertently cause multiple flights to receive urgent cockpit alerts recommending evasive action. It is inappropriate for such testing to occur at DCA given the facts of what occurred. And I expect this committee to investigate why precisely that happened. General Braymond, I want to turn to your testimony. On March 11th, Chairman Moran and I sent you a letter asking a series of very specific questions. This week, the Army responded with a one-page information paper. However, there were specific questions in the letter that were not answered. I want to turn to them now. We asked you specifically, how frequently does the Army turn off ADS-B out transmission?
Ladies and gentlemen, patriots of this great nation, welcome back to the channel where we stand for freedom, for truth, and for the safety of the American people. Today we're diving into something absolutely shocking, and I mean shocking, that happened right over our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Senator Ted Cruz just tore into an Army official over a near mid-air collision at DCA. That's Reagan National Airport for those unfamiliar, caused by reckless and unacceptable government incompetence. And let me tell you right now, folks, this should infuriate every single American who cares about their safety, their rights, and the absolute negligence of the people running our so-called security operations. Let's break it down.
Chairman Cruz, as I stated in the discussion about how we approve the missions, a mission would have to fall into the category as defined in the federal regulation and Army policy. It must have national security implications and be sensitive in nature to be able to do that mission.
General, you're not answering my question. My question is, how frequently is ADS-B out turned off? I wasn't asking what the standard is. I was asking the frequency.
I can take the number for record, Senator, but I can tell you the types of missions and the majority of the missions they fly are missions associated with that national security mission.
Is it accurate that ADS-B out is turned off for 100% of missions flown by the Army Air Brigade at Fort Belvoir?
Senator, I think you're referring to the June 8th letter from the Joint Staff to Representative Norton. In the context of missions, meaning the operations that the 12th Aviation supports in their mission requirements, I would say that's an accurate statement. I would not say that's an accurate statement of 100% of the flights being flown by that organization.
Okay, so I want to understand what you mean by missions. Does missions capture training flights?
Only training flights that would have been operating in a location that's sensitive as part of their continuity of government operations.
Well, that would be all of them around DCA, is that correct?
Only specific sites that are part of that continuity of government operation.
In your one-pager, you said 75% of the flights are mission rehearsal readiness flights. Are those operated with ADS-B out?
They are, Senator, yes.
So right now, today, the Army is flying helicopters in and around DCA Airport with ADS-B out, turned off. Is that correct?
When conducting their NORTHCOM directed mission, that is correct.
I have to say I find that shocking and deeply unacceptable. And I want to encourage the Army right now to revisit that policy and to revisit that policy today. And I can tell you, if the Army chooses not to, I have a high level of confidence that Congress will pass legislation mandating that you revisit the policy. If today another accident occurs over DCA with another helicopter that had ADS-B out turned off, the Army will have very direct responsibility for that. And I am at a loss to come up with any justification for risking the lives of the traveling public with that decision. You can't change the decisions made yesterday, but you can change decisions made forward. Now, it's my understanding the Army has a memo, August 9th, 2024, entitled ADS-B Out Off Operations in the National Airspace. My staff requested that memo from you, and my understanding is your team declined to provide it. That is also unacceptable. I want to ask you at this hearing, will you commit to providing that memo to this committee?
Senator, I'll commit to reviewing the information and getting what we can to you. Absolutely.
That answer needs to be a yes, that you will provide that memo to this committee.
Senator, we'll review that and we'll look at the ability to give it to the committee. Absolutely.
If it is not provided to this committee within 24 hours, I am confident that you will have a senior commanding officer give you a direct order to provide that that memo to this committee. And I just want to underscore, there's no reason the Army has to wait for the conclusion of the NTSB report to revisit your policy on ADS-B out. You can do so right now. And I got to tell you, I spent this morning looking in the eyes of family members who lost family members. I don't know how I would do it tomorrow to another room of family members who lost loved ones because yet another helicopter was flying with ADS-B out. And so I cannot urge you more strongly, change that policy right now.
On March 1st, multiple commercial aircraft full of American citizens received urgent mid-air collision alerts. Imagine that. You're on a flight, thinking about seeing your loved ones, and suddenly the cockpit is getting collision warnings, forcing the pilots to take evasive action. You'd think this was the plot of a Hollywood thriller, but no. This happened in real life, and you won't believe who was behind it. Not terrorists, not enemy combatants, not rogue nations. The Secret Service and the U.S. Navy were the ones conducting these operations, running counter-drone technology tests that interfered with the traffic alert and collision avoidance system. You heard that right. The same agency that's supposed to protect the country's top officials and our own military nearly caused a catastrophic air disaster. And even worse, they were explicitly warned by the FAA not to use that frequency because it interferes with safety systems. But did they listen? Of course not. The arrogance of this administration and these agencies is beyond belief. Now here's where Ted Cruz steps in. And let me tell you folks, this is why we need more leaders who will fight for us, not for the bureaucracy. Cruz rightfully asked why in the world such dangerous testing was allowed, just weeks after a tragic crash killed 67 people near DCA. And you know what response he got? Excuses. Bureaucratic nonsense. General Braymond danced around the truth like a career politician instead of a military leader. Ted Cruz asked a simple question. How often does the Army turn off ADS-B out, the tracking system that ensures aircraft safety? And what did the general say? Nothing useful. He refused to answer, evaded, deflected. Why? Because they know this is an ongoing problem, and they know they'll get burned for admitting the truth. But here's the kicker, folks. It gets worse. Ted Cruz brought up a damning report that states 100% of Army Air Brigade flights out of Fort Belvoir have ADS-B out turned off. That means every single Army helicopter flying in and around DCA is invisible to other aircraft. They are flying blind, people. No wonder we're seeing near collisions. And what does this mean for you? If you or your loved ones are flying into DCA, you're at risk because some bureaucrat decided national security means we can't have basic safety measures in place. This is reckless, this is unacceptable, and this is the deep state running unchecked. Oh, but you think the Army would cooperate? Think again. Ted Cruz demanded they release a memo detailing their ADS-B out policy, a memo that should be public knowledge. And what did General Braymond say? We'll review it. We'll look into it. Nonsense. That memo should have been on Cruz's desk the minute it was requested. But no, they want to stall, hide, cover up. This is how government agencies operate when they know they are in the wrong. And let me tell you something, patriots. If Ted Cruz hadn't pushed back, they would have just swept this under the rug. Think about that. How many other times has our government endangered the lives of civilians with careless, secretive policies like this? How many other memos are buried in Pentagon file cabinets hiding the truth? And more importantly, who is going to hold them accountable? Folks, this is a wake-up call. Our military leadership, our government agencies, have gone completely rogue. They are putting classified operations ahead of the safety of American citizens. This is the deep state unchecked, and if we don't fight back, it's only going to get worse. Ted Cruz is absolutely right to call this out, and I am telling you now, this needs to be investigated at the highest levels. No more stalling, no more excuses, and you better believe if they don't fix this policy immediately, Congress needs to pass legislation forcing them to. And let me say this, the Biden administration, the Pentagon, and the security establishment need to be held accountable for this insanity. They are responsible for the safety of we the people, not their bureaucratic interests, not their classified operations, and certainly not their secrecy at the expense of civilian lives. If this doesn't make your blood boil, I don't know what will. And I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Do you think the Army and Secret Service should be held accountable? Should ADS-B out be mandatory for all aircraft in U.S. airspace? Should Congress step in immediately? Like, share, and subscribe to keep the pressure on. If we don't demand accountability, no one will. Stay strong, stay free, and God bless America.